A Warhammer 40k MMO? How did I never play this? Oh, that's why. Well, let's take a look at what could have been. Now I'll be honest, I never heard of Dark Millennium Online before recently. I saw the news about Eternal Crusade shutting down later this year, yeah, big surprise there, and found it while I was searching around online. Apparently, it was in development during what I always like to refer to as the golden years of MMORPGs. It's that period of time where everybody's uncle's, cousin's, brother's former roommate was trying to make their own new online sensation. It was originally announced back in 2007, and they released a few trailers over the years. I think a couple at E3 2010, 2011, where they showed off a little bit of gameplay and what you could expect from the early end of the game. And they wanted to highlight the more action-oriented combat, especially the vehicle combat that was going to be a big highlight center point of the game. In an interview with PC Gamer, the creative director Mike Mazza, hopefully I'm not butchering his name, went on to say, "We just couldn't wrap our heads around a space marine killing 10 wolves for their pelts. It's just not 40k. We don't want to give those kinds of quests to players. We think it takes you out of the fiction. The objectives of our quests are far more epic than that." Now, with all that I've learned about Warhammer recently with getting into Warhammer Online and into the tabletop game, I would definitely have to agree with that way of thinking. The thought of an MMO based on large-scale warfare with space marines and chaos and orcs and all these, epic factions sounds way more fun than running around and killing animals for their skins. Dave Adams, who was coined as one of the founding father developers at Vigil, also goes on to add, "At first we were like, let's make a standard MMO. Guy goes in, dude standing there, patrol walks by, I tap him, select him, hit one. It was lousy. It didn't fit with the game played on tabletops across the world. It didn't fit with the team's imagined experience, and most importantly, it didn't fit with 40k's endless rapid-fire carnage." Now, I would really have liked to see, there wasn't a whole lot of news about what the PvP would have been like in this game. I imagine that it would have been kind of similar to what we see in Warhammer Online, that extremely large-scale, faction-based combat that we come to expect from Warhammer. But unfortunately, I guess maybe they just didn't get that far in development to see where that was going to lead them to. There was going to be a large focus on vehicle combat as well, which of course is well suited to 40k. There was going to be large vehicles with multiple pilots, multiple gunners, and we did end up seeing that in Eternal Crusade, where they had tanks with, multiple gunners and things. PlanetSide does something similar. And, the thought of rolling across the battlefield in a Land Raider or a looted tank or whatever just sounds really, really fun and definitely fitting with the 40k theme. Now, lore-wise, the game was set to take place in the 41st millennium, well after the events of the Horus Heresy, and they were planning on having all the races that were important to that time period to be represented within the game, both as playable races that you could play as and NPCs within the game. The only playable race that they had officially announced was the Imperium of Man, which of course you're definitely going to see in any Warhammer game. But as I was looking through the various clips and trailers and things that I found online, I saw a few snippets where you could see some chaos units. There was one of an orc flying, a helicopter, and a couple other things. So I'm assuming that orcs and chaos and these other races that we've come to know and love from the 40k universe would also have been playable races as well. Now, they say that there wouldn't have been any non-combat classes in the game, which I don't really know what they mean by that, because most MMOs, if you have like a healing class or a support class, usually they still are combat classes as well. So I'm not exactly sure what they meant by that, but apparently you would have been able to fully customize your character down to not only their weapons and their armor, but books and scrolls and the chains on their armor and stuff. Everything was supposed to be super customizable to make your character exactly the way not only you wanted him to play, but also how you wanted him to look. There was also some talk later on that they were planning on doing a form of player housing that would involve you having your own capital ship that you could fully customize with items that you would have gotten from adventuring. I'm thinking it's probably similar to what some other MMOs have done. I know Star Wars, The Old Republic, has like where you gain certain display items, you know, banners and furniture and trophies, things that you can display. I'm assuming that's what they mean by that, and you could customize your entire ship out with that, and you could have quarters for your friends where they could come and like have their own personal quarters to stay in while they were on your ship. And that sounds really good. Player housing's always been one of those things where everybody wants it, but it has to be implemented correctly in a way that makes sense and is enjoyable for the player experience. So to me, everything at this point was sounding really promising for Dark Millennium. Unfortunately, Vigil, being them, were having the game published by THQ, and as many of you probably know, THQ went bankrupt and shut down. So they had a lot of projects that were, you know, under the THQ umbrella, and that were ongoing projects, and everything just kind of went up into the air when they were having these financial troubles and having to shut their doors. So unfortunately, MMOs are very, very expensive games to make. They're very expensive to maintain, and they're also a really big gamble. A lot of MMOs that have come out from the 2000s until now have come out and shut down, or come out and had to switch to a free-to-play model, or, you know, just didn't do as well as what the publisher expected them to do. So it makes sense that they would really have to sit and look at this project and say, well, is it going to be financially successful enough for us to continue working on it and to put it out and everything else? So unfortunately, they had to make the decision to scrap the game, and originally they just decided to scrap the MMO part of the game. Vigil was really determined to release the game in some form, so they were initially deciding to change course and make it a co-op multiplayer RPG, and there was a couple articles that referred to it as Inquisitor. I know we did get an Inquisitor game later on, but I don't think they're related in any kind of way. But it was going to be more of a co-op RPG. One of the guys at THQ, Danny Bilson, described it as much more of a Borderlands kind of game. 4-player co-op, jump in, jump out, go on missions with your friends, and just being, you know, a really exciting game like that. But unfortunately, that never came to pass either, because the decision was eventually made to scrap the project entirely, which of course was a big disappointment to not only fans of 40K and people who were excited about the game, but also to the people who were working on them. People have been working on this game for years now, and they're just deciding to scrap it. And Bilson also goes on to say that there was a lot of game to let go there that was pretty great. The combat system was really fun, it was fast, it was exciting, the art was really great, the world was coming along great. I thought it had tremendous potential. I was really disappointed when the second iteration that we were calling Inquisitor got canceled. And then he says, that was on a Friday, and Monday, I believe the next work day, I left THQ. So that's a pretty big statement right there to make. But sadly, we never did get that 40K MMO. We had another one come out, as I mentioned earlier in this video, that ended up being called Eternal Crusade, which I would say Eternal Crusade is not quite MMO. I think it was originally going to be a full-fledged MMO, and then they kind of retooled it into the game they have now, which, as I said before, that game is actually shutting down later this year. I believe September is when they're going to shut down the servers and everything, so clearly that project didn't work out as well, and that's another topic for a different video altogether. But that's pretty much it for this, guys. I'm really disappointed that this game never came to pass. I hope that somebody decides to take another chance. I know MMORPGs are nowhere near as big and, you know, exciting as they once were, especially in the eyes of publishers, but I personally really love the Warhammer universe. I love the 40k universe, and the idea of having a massive multiplayer version of these games, even if it is more, action combat oriented, it's maybe not like your traditional MMO, still the idea of having a big open world, massive or large scale multiplayer, and let's say that instead of massive multiplayer, that would still be really fantastic. And I think it could be done really well in a way that would not only be really fun, but also really would sell well, which we know that that's what the publishers care about most, right? But thank you guys for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to be posting some more videos, especially as I'm getting more into Warhammer tabletop and painting and all that good stuff. So you can look forward to those coming soon. But yeah, I just want to thank you all for the support, and I will see you on the next video.